Well, David, thanks so much for being here, man. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And it was such a fun project to work on FreedUp with you.
Absolutely.
And particularly for this amazing community that you lead. And so I just want to hear a little bit more from you about kind of the thoughts you have about talking to your community about money, just in general, and then what FreedUp did to kind of help make that easier.
Yeah, I think I just got anxious by you saying talking to people about money because it is like, I think in our world in the church, I don't know if it's been done wrong, but there's this stigma that the moment money comes off my lips, you're asking me to give you money. I knew it. I knew that's why you wanted me here. And so even though that has never been, in the wheelhouse of who we are as a church, that still resonates. And so, there's definitely a level of fear stepping into really, and we've done these series quite a bit over the years, not FreedUp necessarily. It's our first year doing that, but it always invokes a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right. The church, a lot of times when they bring it up, it's because somebody's in trouble.
Yeah.
Either the person's in trouble and we're sending them through some sort of crisis, ministry to help them get out of financial difficulty, or the church is trying to raise money for some capital campaign or something. So there is this kind of sense of, oh, we're going to have to talk about that?
Yeah.
So talk about FreedUp. One, just how did it work to roll it out for you guys? Was it hard? Was it straightforward? And then what happened?
Yeah. Well, incredibly easy, which is my love language. Like, it was so great to just the plug and play, because the last thing you want to do is bring something in and overwhelm your entire staff who's already doing really, really good stuff. So the communication back and forth was so incredibly easy. And then what we got from the app to the small group stuff, but then I think like any pastor who's even contemplating doing this, the fact that the outlines for the messages were incredible. Obviously, you can take and cut and use whatever you want to do,
right?
But that it was so rich with scripture. It's a great introduction, by the way, to FreedUp, because you realize going through just the sermon outlines, okay, this is rooted completely in the heart of God. This is not a bait and switch. This is, we want to hear, it's really a pastor's heart to help people get, right? That's the whole name, freed up from some of these things that, I guess you live enough life, you look back and go, wow, the amount of bondage that money has brought people used inappropriately is unbelievable.
It is something that I think once you bring the truth of Scripture to the topic, people start to breathe easier, because this isn't about, a fundraising campaign. It's about opening people up to freedom. What happened for you guys here?
Yeah. So the good news was that it wasn't a hard sell for the leadership. So we knew this is something we wanted to do. Stewardship, obviously on our minds, but not real sticky. Like, we'd bring it up every year. We talk about it a little bit. I think for us, the moment where I could feel my heart get grabbed was just that simple line that God's call is that I would be a steward, not an owner. I think about Joseph. I love the story, though it's got a kind of a tragic little ending. He ends up in prison, but Potiphar's wife, comes to him, brings this proposition about, hey, you're in charge of my husband's household. You can have me as well. And he says, no, this all is my master's. Yeah. He's entrusted me with it. He plays that role there of like, I'm the steward. I'm not the owner. This isn't my house. Where Adam and Eve back in Genesis 3, they're faced with the same thing and they don't pass the test. The one thing they're not supposed to touch. And it's the basic problem of Adam and Eve. They really saw themselves as the owner in that one moment, and everything fell apart. So much of my life, I've tried to be the owner, and just the freedom of realizing, no, you're called to be the steward is really quite a blessing. So that little line right there became the open door for us to run through. Like, yes, I can get a handle around that. And then everything else, again, was incredibly easy, but that became kind of the drumbeat of the entire experience for us, the stewardship part versus having to be the owner of everything in my life, which is just a painful burden to walk around with.
Well, and totally agree. And the thing that I think was really amazing about North Star was the concepts were shared, the sermons were all laid out, everybody walked through, the small groups were all meeting and working through the app, but never in there was there this expectation of anything.
Yeah.
Right? You kept it very open-handed and led with this stewardship mindset for the church in total.
Yeah.
That we're all going to act this way.
Yes.
We're all going to move towards this idea of being a heart of a faithful steward. And it ended up turning into this huge opportunity to just give resources away, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about what that was like.
So, I think one of the things every church should adopt is, in a series like this, if you can pair it up with, we don't care where you give, just give. Just be a person of great stewardship in your life. Not about just giving stuff away as far as financials, but your entire life, everything. We all know that, time, talent, treasure. But what we got convicted of in a really sweet way is like, how are we going to go to all of our people and say, hey, embrace these principles, live out this value, if we're not setting the example? So for us, we decided, okay, for these 5 weeks that we're doing FreedUp, let's bump up from giving 25%. It's kind of our very low baseline that we give away at least every year, 25 to local and global missions. Let's shoot for 60. And so what we said to the church, we're not going to ask you to do anything we're not doing. Again, it wasn't so much about money, but that was a practical way we could do it. Well, what was fascinating, it was like this beautiful, perfect storm as I look back on it, and it just opened the floodgates. People found themselves really letting go and being freed up of a lot of the bondage. They're learning stuff. And a lot of stuff started coming into North Star, a lot of resources, a lot of money. So we were able to come back to the church after 5 weeks and say, we have an additional $100,000 we don't know what to do with. You guys pray, you come back, give us some ideas. And so it was this great church-wide participation. And we got to celebrate at the end to be able to bless some local and global missions and able to do 68% instead of 60.
So
there's no pat on the back. It just happened. And so I look back on all this. And then, by the way, 7 weeks later, we had another $100,000. And what I felt like the Lord was really doing is he was just working on our hearts. And so all we had to think through, God, what are you doing in our heart as a leadership? And how do we step out in faith in the same way we're asking everyone to step out in faith? And then it was a snowball. I don't know. I just look back and go, I really like how that snowball worked.
Yeah. Well,
and it ended up being a beautiful thing.
It was absolutely beautiful. And I think the thing that was really neat was it wasn't give us more so we can hit a certain bogey that we're giving away. It was we're giving this away no matter what. Right. We're going to step into this stewardship heart with faith.
Right.
And we're doing this whether you're part of it or not.
Yeah.
And what happened was everybody wanted to be a part of it.
Yes.
Right? There was this sense of, oh, this is exciting instead of this is a burden or a demand on my life, right?
Yeah, there was never a goal to reach. It was just, here's the heart. Gosh, I hope they follow. Yeah. And I think that's the big lesson. Like you look back and go, oh, wow, people are really ready to follow that kind of thing. But again, without pausing, going through some of this stuff, really getting the values of FreedUp, I don't know, maybe we would just skim by all this. So it was great just to see the Lord. He just made it happen.
That's so fun. That's great. So as you look back on the process of rolling out FreedUp and taking this to the whole community, anything that you would do differently as you think back on it?
Yeah, I think it would have been great if we had had more of just a ramp up time. That was it. And that's kind of just our church's Achilles heel. Hey, this is great. We're doing it in 2 weeks. I think casting some of that vision and value quicker, sooner. And I think capturing some of the smaller wins. So we captured at the very end, oh, great. We had all this come in and now look, we're going to be able to do, but it would have been nice to capture some of those throughout. And then that ramp up time, I just think if we could have put the value and the vision in front of people, everything from getting the app to the people in groups just would have gone better. It went well, but I think it would have been better. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, it is relatively easy to plug in and turn on, but you got to get everybody around it and organized to say we're going to all do this, and that takes a little more time.
Which is why I would encourage people, like, just think through, I want to do this next year at some point. Go ahead, get the conversation going, and just give yourself that space before you start it.
That's great. Yeah. As you think about this concept, sounds like your favorite part of all of this is that stewardship versus ownership mindset. Have you had conversations with people in the church that have seen that transformation? Any stories that came back to you of how that really started to turn for people and they felt free as a result?
Yeah. So we have at North Star, a lot of our discipleship right now is done. We've got kind of a men's segment, a women's segment. Not that they have to be split up like that, but in our men's group on Thursday night, we had a couple guys that were in the same group together. And so we split into our smaller groups. They're going through the app. And two guys who are in wildly different financial places ended up being a little bit of champions for one another because they both had the same issues, but you wouldn't believe it by looking at them. And so for me, did I love some of the financial freed up stuff they experienced, but to see two guys recognize, this issue we're dealing with, control. So for the other guy, it was more because I'm trying to be the owner of absolutely everything in my life. Control was just crushing him, bleeding into relationships, into work. And so for one guy, it was more practical and he got some great freedom there. But the other guy, it was really about starting to repair some of these damaged relationships and figuring out, why am I trying to control? And there was this theological, spiritual, emotional lie that he was the owner and not the steward. It's awesome. Beautiful to watch those guys walk through that.
Well, and the thing that you're hitting on there, which I love, is that normally money is not talked about in community. We tend to deal with it on our own. Or if it is talked about in a community, it's very homogeneous community. It's all the people in crisis together. In this setting, there's people who are, like you said, wildly different financially, but incredibly similar emotionally, spiritually, and having this moment to go, hey, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that struggles with this. And this isn't actually because of the money. This is because of something that's a heart issue or a spiritual issue. That is one of my highest values for FreedUp, is getting everyone in community talking together about money instead of siloing them into the people who have money go over here and talk about money together, and the people who are struggling with debt go over here and talk about that over. We got to get everybody together having the same conversation at the same time.
Because it does feel so emotional. Like, I'm just shocked. You just really need to peel back one or two layers and you realize, oh my goodness, this is an issue of the heart. There's real tangible goals and things we've got to meet so we can keep the electric on. And maybe you don't have to work till you're 101 years old, but underneath it all. And so what I loved about FreedUp is it just kept recognizing kind of the elephant in the room. Hey, this is really an emotional and a lot of times a spiritual thing that we're trying to work through. So
that's great.
Yeah,
man. Well, thanks again for sharing your experience with us. Really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.